I don't understand. Why wasn't he charged?
Insufficient evidence.
Then how can you be certain?
Oh, come, John.
Informers?
Who denied informing?
And they commit perjury?
Quite happily.
Well, didn't you put the fear of God into them?
They'd already been threatened with murder.
What about police protection?
They weren't impressed.
But now you've got him.
Yes. And I want him convicted.
And I'm sure he will be.
The solicitor wants to brief a Miss Peterson in your chambers.
Ah. So you're not here because of my claret?
Your claret is excellent, John. Almost as excellent as your company.
Why do I always agree with you?
Is she good?
She wouldn't be in my chambers if she weren't.
Can't she be tough?
As the proverbial old boot. Not that she looks like one, thank God.
Has she conducted many prosecutions?
She really ought to do more, especially as she's so career-conscious. It isn't that she tramples over her colleagues, Philip, merely sidesteps them.
Would you recommend her for this case?
I think your solicitor is most perspicacious.
So you agree with him?
No, he agrees with me. Another glass of claret?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Still no answer, Madge.
He definitely said he'd look in on Granny.
Well, perhaps he's had an emergency call.
I bet he's in London.
Oh, why London?
He's got a woman there.
Oh, how do you know?
He must have.
But I thought he was supposed to be keen on you.
Look, phone the switchboard. She's probably forgotten to transfer his calls. He knew Granny was very ill. That's why he promised to look in again this evening.
A switchboard? Look, my sister and I keep ringing Dr. Moody's number, but there's no reply. Please. She's putting me through to Dr. Phipps.
This is negligence on Ian's part.
We don't know he's in London,
Of course he's in London. It was one night to begin with. Now it's two.
Oh, Dr. Phipps? Oh. Oh, when he returns, would you ask him to come at once to Fairfield Cottage, Irving Lane, please? My grandmother may have had another stroke. She's unconscious. Who? Thank you. She told me to try Dr. Fenton.
He should have been here.
It wouldn't have made any difference, Madge.
That's not the point, Hugh. If she dies, I'll never forgive him.
But you've got a job.
Ian, they said I'd get 30 quid a week. Well, that was a bloody lie. I don't take home anything like that.
We all have to pay income tax.
Not if you handle cash, you don't.
Surely you're enjoying your freedom.
No, because I'm starving.
You could have fooled me.
For the luxuries, for the perks. I want a steak with my chips, not a beef burger. I want a jag, not a clapped-out heat. Like a lush bird, not an old crow from King's Cross. And more than all that, I like some new gear. But I'm always better dressed than Nick.
So?
So advise me.
Keep working.
But why should I be the only one not on a fiddle?
Why? Am I on a fiddle?
Probably everyone else is. Take him behind the bar. $5 a week at least in short measure and short change. And Ian, he's definitely on the expense account racket.
That's all been stopped.
Not if you're entertaining foreigners. Sprechen die Deutsch, darling? But even her strength isn't taxed.
You're worried about something. What is it?
What would you do, Ian, if somebody offered you 500 quid for a piece of cake?
Depends what the cake is.
I'd be a nut to turn it down.
Now, you don't believe that, or you wouldn't have bothered to phone me.
It's just I don't want to do any more porridge.
There's your answer,
For
then.
500 quid, Ian. Wonder what he wants.
Who is he?
Detective Constable Paperclip.
Why, paperclip.
Couldn't be more bent.
Oh, you're biased.
All coppers are bent. It's a fact, Ian. Backhanders, blackmail, planting.
What do you mean, planting?
They slip something in your pocket, then they search you and wham, caught in possession of. Happens to everyone.
It's never happened to you.
No, but it's just happened to Tiger Lawson.
I know him.
Well, hardly a friend of yours, surely.
Hardly. It was some years ago now, but I haven't forgotten him. It was my first excursion into real jungle. Lawson was a witness for the other side. The moment the accused saw him, he went to pieces. I never before seen a man literally shaking with fear. Worried me for a long time.
You must have been very young.
Younger, Bill, younger.
No. What I meant was it wouldn't worry you now.
I don't know. Terror is never very pleasant to witness.
Rather nice to think you've been specially asked for.
Yes, I find that most agreeable.
The police are very anxious to get a conviction.
I'm not surprised. What's the charge?
They caught him with housebreaking implements and a .38 revolver fully loaded.
Have they any idea what his defense will be?
No, but apparently he wrote a statement accusing a police sergeant of planting the revolver in his coat pocket and the tools of the trade in the boot of his car.
That might be it, then.
In which case you got it all sewn up. He's already done a lot of form for violence.
Well, let's face it. Lawson must be lying, or the police would have torn up the statement.
Shall I set the wheels in motion?
Please, Will.
Good morning, Madge.
Where were you last night?
London, why?
What's her name?
Who?
This woman you visit in London.
I don't see that that concerns you, Madge.
We had an understanding.
Understand?
You certainly gave the impression you liked me.
But I do like you.
I've never played second fiddle to anyone, Ian, and I don't intend to start now.
Just what is all this about?
Are you in love with her?
Madge, my private life is my...
You are, aren't you?
How's the patient?
The patient is dead.
When?
When you were in London.
And didn't Dr. Phipps look in on?
No. My brother eventually got hold of Dr. Fenton. I'm writing to the General Medical Council accusing you of gross negligence.
But why?
You promised to look in on her. You never came, and she died.
But Dr. Phipps said he would...
Save your lies for the GMC. I'm not interested.
I'm very sorry about your grandmother, Madge.
Tch. Did you ever kiss her?
Well, I gave her a peck on the cheek occasionally.
So she was more than a patient to you.
But a million miles less than a lover.
You must have given her some hope.
I didn't.
When did you give her these pecks on the cheek?
Well, she invited me for dinner once or twice.
You never told me.
Do you tell me every time you have dinner with Gallagher?
That's different.
Why is it different?
We don't happen to kiss each other goodnight.
We were never alone, Harriet. Not even when we went out riding together. Once.
How old is this woman?
35.
Attractive?
Yes. Well, no, not attractive.
Married?
Divorced.
Oh, yes.
What's that supposed to mean?
How did you meet her?
As a patient, she kept visiting me.
So you were alone with her?
Only professionally.
What was wrong with her?
Nothing. She's a hypochondriac.
Ian, you are not that naive.
Harriet, if I have an affair with someone, I think I'd like to know about it. I didn't even know we had an understanding till she told me. I thought you'd be sympathetic.
I thought you could be trusted.
You're jealous.
I
aren't
have
you?
every right to be.
Yes, but there's a hell of a difference between saying goodnight, George, night, Hugh, night, Sybil, night, Madge, thanks for a lovely dinner, and saying goodnight to you.
Demonstrate.
Satisfied.
You never compliment me on my cooking.
That would be hypocrisy.
Oh.
I'm glad you're jealous.
Yes, I am. It's absolutely absurd, a woman of my age with a grown-up son. Ian, this woman won't really cause trouble, will she?
I hope not, for your sake.
Why my sake?
If there's to be an inquiry, my private life will be put under a microscope.
Will it get that far?
It shouldn't.
She's being vindictive.
It's an occupational hazard, Harriet.
I've known similar cases, and I've always said to myself, the doctor doth protest too much.
Yes, and you haven't believed him.
No. But you're innocent.
You know bloody well I'm innocent. Just like the man who finds that the police have planted evidence on him. But how does he prove it?
Why did you say that?
It was something Andy told me.
Who's Andy?
He's someone I'm trying to help.
One of your old lags?
One of my young ones. He maintains the police do it all the time.
Oh, he would, wouldn't he? I don't know. The more crooked they are, the more hard done by they feel.
What are you getting so annoyed about?
I think it's wrong that the police should have to put up with this kind of mudslinging. You're spending too much time with pimps and crooks, and you're beginning to believe everything they say.
There have been cases.
I'm prosecuting a man caught in possession of a loaded revolver. He's a particularly nasty specimen with a record of brutality and violence. Now, I don't know for certain, but Lawson's defense could be that the revolver was planted on him by a police sergeant.
Did you say Lawson?
Yes, why?
It's just that Andy mentioned a tiger Lawson.
Tiger? He's not a tiger, Ian. He's a slug.
Ian, you have no idea what it's like being the odd man out. I tell you, it's as if a Trappist monk suddenly got up and shouted, "This is it, mates! I've seen the light! I'm an atheist!"
So leave the monastery.
That's all I know.
Are your friends being difficult?
Well, they're not being very understanding.
But you're still holding out.
Yeah, but it's like when I gave up fags. I got the same withdrawal symptoms. Still, we all have our little problems. What's yours?
The last time we spoke, you mentioned Tiger Lawson.
What about him?
Do you know what was planted on him?
Oh, I did hear it was a gun and some housebreaking tools. Why?
It's just that a friend of mine can't believe the police would do such a thing.
Who's your friend then? The chief constable?
But you can't have any proof.
It's not Tiger Senior. He's not a gunman.
Why, what's he do?
He's a debt collector. He goes in once the talking's over. That's why he took a little drive up the motorway and the night he was caught. So was told. On his way to do a bit of collecting.
He could have had the gun on him.
Look, Ian, he's known. He only has to pass a police station that come flying out to search him. He's not daft.
Why do you think the police did it?
Help the promotion. But no one's going to call them liars. I mean, old Tiger's done more time than Big Ben.
Propaganda, Ian, of the worst kind. Do you want your friends to take over?
Yes, Moody. Do you want the gunman to become sheriff?
Andy is convinced that Lawson is innocent of the charge.
What else do you expect?
I didn't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me. That boy is doing his best to go straight, and believe me, he's not finding it easy. Now, what's he going to think if Lawson's sent to prison on a trumped-up charge? Isn't he going to say, why should I bother to go straight when everything else is crooked, even justice?
If it's a trumped-up charge.
And that will be decided at the trial.
What chance has Lawson got? It's his word against the word of a policeman. Who would you believe?
The question's irrelevant. I shan't be on the jury.
If you were.
I'm quite confident the counsel for the prosecution will persuade everyone of Lawson's guilt.
In other words, you're on the side of the police.
Wholeheartedly.
What if the policeman's dishonest?
It'll be up to the defense to prove it.
Forgive me. I thought one was innocent until proved guilty.
I've seen Lawson's record, Ian. The man's a complete and utter thug.
Has he ever been convicted of housebreaking or armed robbery?
He's never been caught, and that's something quite different.
How do you know that, John?
I discussed the fellow with the chief constable over dinner one evening.
Why should Lawson interest the chief constable?
He must feel the same as you do about violent men. He wants a conviction, Harriet.
Why?
He knows the man's guilty.
He's no different from Andy. Andy thinks all policemen are bent. The chief constable thinks that all men with previous convictions must be guilty.
It's not the chief constable who'll decide that.
As prosecuting counsel, Harriet, answer me this. If you had real doubts, would you still press for a conviction?
A counsel cannot convict. I do wish you'd learn the rudiments of a subject before expounding on it.
I'd like to know her answer.
She isn't accountable to you for her professional actions. You're not the bar counsel. You're really becoming a bore, Moody.
You find the possible miscarriage of justice boring?
Now, before you two decide on pistols at dawn, let's get everything into perspective. You talked to an ex-criminal, Ian. On his recommendation alone, you've decided there's going to be a miscarriage of justice.
Well, he talked to the chief constable.
Leave John out of this. He isn't parading his principles, you are.
It's not his principles, it's yours he wants to see. He wants to see them dancing to his dreary little tune.
You realize you're prejudging the case, Ian.
Aren't you? You think Lawson's guilty?
Doesn't matter what I
No,
think.
no, you're wrong.
She's right.
Then the jury will return a verdict of guilty. And Andy will know the system is there to protect the establishment and not the innocent.
Innocent? This villain isn't innocent. A few weeks before the latest incident, he assaulted a police officer.
I didn't know that, John.
The man's still in hospital. He had a fractured skull.
Why wasn't Lawson charged?
The witnesses were given an ultimatum. Keep quiet or be cremated. Now, they saw it happen. They said they saw it happen, but they didn't dare pick him out at the identity parade. Now, just please don't talk to me about a miscarriage of justice.
No, I don't want to sound brutal. Believe me, I am sorry for the injured policeman.
And so you should be.
But we were discussing the latest incident.
Which station was this policeman from?
Poole Road.
It was a sergeant from Poole Road who arrested Lawson.
So?
coincidence, isn't it?
Life is full of them.
Now, don't jump down my throat, Harriet. I'm not saying it was, but the gun could have been planted.
All right. For argument's sake, let's say it was. And Lawson is given his freedom. Freedom to terrorize, maim, and perhaps even kill, with the court's approval.
And the sergeant will go to prison.
Indeed, yes. After all, he's committed the most heinous of crimes. He's tried to protect society from a potential murderer. And it won't stop there. Morale will plummet, some of the younger policemen will resign, and the division will become even more understaffed. But then that will please your friends, won't it, Moody?
Lawson is still entitled to justice, John.
And he'll get it.
Not if the gun was planted.
Yes, he will. It's called rough justice.
You're only saying that because you're annoyed with Ian. You'd never accept perjured evidence, and you know it.
I do so dislike barrack-room lawyers.
I'll grant you this, Ian. Emotionally, you've posed a difficult problem.
Where's the difficulty? I don't see any difficulty. You accept a brief, you get on with it.
I do happen to be prosecuting in this instance.
And just see that you do.
Even if it means sending an innocent man to prison?
He is not innocent.
He might be innocent of this particular charge, John.
Then that's society's good luck. Because if Lawson goes free, he'll celebrate. And you know how he'll celebrate? By fracturing someone else's skull. And that should give us another fascinating discussion, shouldn't it?
Now, John.
Now, look, Harriet, I don't mind his becoming a ventriloquist. But I take strong exception to your becoming his dummy. Good night.
See, he does have feelings.
That's the first time I've seen him angry. We actually made him angry.
Well, he's rather attractive when he's roused.
You must find the oddest people attractive.
Yes, darling. Let's have some more coffee.
What will you do about Lawson?
Prosecute him.
You don't have any doubts?
Not yet.
What about my argument?
Similar to the one about the number of angels that can stand on the head of a pin. Stimulating and thought-provoking, but nothing to do with reality.
Good morning, Miss Peterson.
Morning.
Ready for the fray?
As always,
That was Sergeant Foster I was speaking to. As you know, he's our only witness.
he has a good presence. Should go down well with the jury.
He's a first-class police officer. He should go far. Well, it shouldn't be long now.
How's his colleague?
Which one would that be?
The one who was injured.
Oh, he's still in hospital, poor fellow.
You know him?
He's Sergeant Foster's brother-in-law.
And because he was acting so suspiciously, I went up to him and asked him what he was doing. He turned and threw a punch at me. I countered the blow, and as I tried to restrain him, he slipped and fell. As he fell, he hit his head against the near side door of the car. While he was in a dazed condition, I was able to handcuff him. I also searched him and found in his coat pocket a .38 caliber revolver, fully loaded.
You're a liar. You keep quiet.
In the boot of his car, I found a picklock and a crowjack.
And what are such instruments used for?
They are implements of housebreaking equipment.
Thank you.
You apprehended the accused quite by chance when you saw him trying the doors of parked cars.
Yes.
You had no foreknowledge that he'd be in the vicinity?
No.
You're quite sure?
I'm positive.
I think it only fair to warn you that I shall be calling a witness who will swear that he told you Mr. Lawson would be in the vicinity.
Then he's lying.
You mean you are? I told you to keep quiet.
Did you know the accused?
No.
But you saw him on an identity parade, didn't you?
Yes.
Why was he on this identity parade?
It was thought that he had caused grievous bodily harm to a police officer.
Do you know the date of this assault?
No, not offhand.
The 16th of August. 9 weeks prior to this latest incident. And had he caused grievous bodily harm to the police officer?
He wasn't picked out.
Were there many witnesses to the assault?
3.
And how many of those witnesses were at the identity parade?
3.
And yet not one of them identified Mr. Lawson as the man responsible.
No.
Consequently, no charges were made against him, correct?
Correct.
The police would very much have liked a conviction, yes?
Only if he'd been guilty.
Ah, then you admit that he was innocent.
There was insufficient evidence.
Does this mean that you still think he was guilty of causing grievous bodily harm?
I did not say that.
Even though the entire machinery of police detection must have been used in order to find the perpetrator of such a dastardly crime.
I did not say he was guilty.
No, I know you didn't say it, but you thought it. And you still think it, yes?
Doesn't matter what I think.
But it does, Sergeant, because you're in a position to be able to translate thought into action. I suggest you planted the revolver on his person and the housebreaking implements in the boot of his car.
I certainly did
You
not.
also assaulted him.
I tried to restrain him.
You assaulted him because you had decided he was the man responsible for injuries sustained by a brother police officer. Or should I say, brother-in-law. The injured officer was in fact your brother-in-law, yes?
Yes.
No further questions.
You said you saw Lawson trying the doors of the parked cars.
Lies again. I shall not tell you again. Yes, but it's perjury. I shall be the judge of that, not you.
What time was this?
02:20 hours.
Was there a moon?
No, there was thick cloud.
The street lighting was on.
It was a side road and the lighting was very poor.
But you could see Lawson's face.
No, he had his back to me. That's why I could not possibly have known it was Lawson.
Sergeant Foster, is there anything in the police manual that stipulates one must never arrest a man who has previously been arrested on suspicion of assaulting one's brother-in-law?
No.
Thank you.
Now, you say that Mr. Wilkinson owed you £200, Mr. Lawson.
Yes. I'd waited 3 months for him to pay up, and I decided I couldn't wait any longer. So I phoned him and I told him I'd come and collect the following evening at 11 o'clock.
Was that the time that you arrived at his flat?
No, I was delayed in town. I didn't get there until around 2 o'clock. He wasn't in, so I hung around for 15 minutes or so. And then I was just about to get into my car when a Foster came up behind me and knocked me out. And when I came to, I was handcuffed to my car. And Foster was going through my pocket. He took out a revolver and he said, "What's this for?" And I said, "You tell me, because you must have put it there." He then opened the boot of the car, and he took out a picklock and a crowjack. And he said, "What about this little lot?" And I said, "What is this, a plant?" And he said, "That's right. One of those plants that can choke you." He then phoned the station, and more coppers arrived. And I was beat up again. And then I was held down to the station where I was charged with being in possession of housebreaking implements and a loaded revolver. And I was flung downstairs and kicked into a cell.
Did you tell them you were innocent?
Oh, yes. They roared their heads off. Said, "Okay, so prove it."
You mean they laughed at you?
Oh, they knew I didn't have a hope in hell of proving it.
Why?
Because of my previous convictions.
Yes, would you remind the court, please, of your previous convictions?
Common assault, assault and battery, grievous bodily harm.
Have you ever been convicted of housebreaking?
Never.
Have you ever used a firearm?
Never.
Have you ever carried a firearm?
No, never. I don't need to.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
You said you arrived at Mr. Wilkinson's flat at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning and that you waited 15 minutes or so.
Yes.
What did you do during those 15 minutes?
I told you I waited.
Outside Wilkinson's flat?
Yes, for a bit, and then outside in the street I wandered up and down.
Why?
Well, to see if I could see his car.
You were looking at cars?
Looking, but not touching.
It was 2 o'clock in the morning and you were wandering up and down looking at cars.
Yes.
Some people might consider that tantamount to loitering.
No, I wasn't loitering.
But surely you would agree that a police officer would have been failing in his duty if he hadn't questioned you.
Ah, but he didn't question me, did he? He crept up behind me and laid me out.
Who?
Foster.
How do you know it was Sergeant Foster who came up behind you?
Well, he wasn't a little dicky bird, was it?
You must remain quiet in the public gallery.
Why did you assault him?
He assaulted me.
Were you worried he'd find the revolver?
No, he had the gun, not me.
Worried he'd find the picklock and the crowjack?
Planted by him in my car.
You stated that Wilkinson was absent from his flat.
No, probably because he didn't have the money.
And because he was frightened you would cause him grievous bodily harm.
Not at all. Him and me, we're good pals.
Are you saying he wasn't frightened of you?
Well, why should he be? As I said, we're good pals. Besides, he's pretty good with a knife, is Wilkinson.
Is that why you decided to arm yourself with a .38 caliber revolver?
I wasn't carrying a gun.
And the picklock and the crowjack, were they to force an entry into the flat?
Then why didn't I? I'll tell you why. Because I didn't have them on me.
That's right, Tiger. You tell us, silly bitch.
Any further disturbance and I shall clear the public gallery.
Peggy? Miss Peterson here. Is Bill available?
All right, Peggy, I'll take it in here. Afternoon, Miss Peterson. Have you finished?
No, simply adjourned for lunch. It could go into tomorrow.
And you're worried about your conference. Yes, of course, I'll get it changed. No problem at all. How's it going? Uh-huh. Any hitches? Jolly good.
According to your testimony, Mr. Wilkinson, you informed Sergeant Foster that the accused would be visiting you that night.
Yeah, that's right. Foster knew I was a pal of Mr. Lawson's, and so he put the pressure on me.
What sort of pressure?
Well, he said if I didn't let him know, he'd shot me.
How did he intend to do that?
Simple. By planting an offensive weapon on me. Would it be my word against his? He had me.
What do you mean?
Well, I got a record, hadn't I?
You admit you have previous convictions?
Oh, yeah. Doesn't worry me.
Would you care to tell the court your previous convictions?
Burglary, fraud, being in possession of, loitering with intent.
You
damage.
expect the court to believe your word rather than that of Sergeant Foster?
Oh, no, I don't. But all the same, it's me that's telling the truth. He'd have planted something on me.
It all sounds rather familiar.
Well, it's what happened to Mr. Lawson, isn't it?
What reason have you for saying that?
His solicitor told me.
You went to see a solicitor?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I wanted to help Mr. Lawson.
In what way?
By telling the solicitor that the sergeant said he'd plant evidence on me if I didn't let him know when Mr. Lawson was next coming to see me.
How did you know that the planting of evidence was to be Lawson's defense?
His solicitor told me.
You must have known that before you spoke to him.
Pardon?
Somebody else must have given you that information.
Why?
For you to think you could be of help to Lawson. Who was it?
It must have been Mr. Lawson himself.
He'd been arrested.
Oh, yeah.
Who was it who gave you the name of Lawson's solicitor and told you to contact him?
A friend. A mutual friend.
His name?
His name?
His name.
I don't really know.
But you said he was a friend.
Well, not a friend exactly.
What exactly?
More of an acquaintance.
You must know his name.
You're not going to believe this, but I don't.
Are you too frightened to tell the court?
Why should I be frightened? I mean, I've got nothing to be frightened of, have I?
Then tell the court his name.
Well, I can't. I forgot it.
Did this man threaten you, Mr. Wilkinson?
I haven't been threatened by anybody.
I thought Sergeant Foster threatened you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. He did.
When did he threaten you?
I'm not sure.
Where did he threaten you?
No, I'm afraid it's gone. I'm sorry. No, everything's gone. I always get like this when I get asked a lot of questions. I just can't think straight. But he did threaten me. Yeah, and he threatened me again later on after Mr. Lawson had been arrested. He said I wasn't to tell anybody that he knew about Mr. Lawson coming to my place. Now that I do remember.
Why did the accused want to see you?
Oh, well, we're good pals, him and me. Known each other since Borstal days. He often drops in for a chat.
Are you saying he drove 90 miles to have a chat with you?
Yeah, because we're very good pals.
And yet you informed on him?
I haven't informed on him. No, I never shot you, Tiger, honest. She's lying. You're lying.
Didn't you tell Sergeant Foster that Lawson was coming to visit you?
Oh, I see. I'm sorry, I wasn't quite sure what you meant. Yeah, I did tell him that.
Why are you terrified of the accused, Mr. Wilkinson?
I'm not terrified of him. I mean, he can't hurt me, can he?
No, but this Mr. X can.
What, Mr. X?
The man who called on you shortly after Lawson's arrest and told you what to say in court.
Nobody called on me.
You've already admitted someone paid you a visit.
Yeah, but he never told me what to say.
He gave you the name of Lawson's solicitor.
No, he never threatened me.
Then what was his name?
Look, I did let the sergeant know. I let him know because I was scared of what Tiger might do to me. See, Well, I got behind some gambling debts. I couldn't pay. Well, that's why I phoned the sergeant, because I wanted protection, you see. He was going to hide in one of the rooms, but, well, when the time came to let me into the flat, I got cold feet. I scarped, but I got out. Yeah. No, that's the truth.
I must say you have a fertile imagination, Mr. Wilkinson.
It's the truth.
Was it the truth when you said you and Lawson were very good pals?
No.
Was it the truth when you said Sergeant Foster threatened you?
I was told to say that.
Who told you?
I'm not saying.
I suggest you were instructed to say anything that would incriminate Sergeant Foster.
When I said I wanted protection, that was the truth.
Do you know the meaning of the word?
You said you telephoned Sergeant Foster and asked for his protection.
Yeah?
He therefore knew that Mr. Lawson was going to visit you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You stay where you are. Now, you said you were told to inform the court that Sergeant Foster had threatened you.
Yes, my lord.
Who was it who gave you such instructions?
Well, I don't know, my lord.
I want the name of the man or woman who instructed you to commit perjury. Who was it?
No one, my lord. I made it up.
Now leave the box, but remain in court until the conclusion of the trial.
You mean you want to see me again, my lord?
Yes.
That is the case for the defendant, Your Honor.
I ask for leave to recall Sergeant Foster.
Sergeant Foster?
As Your Honor pleases. There's a possibility that Wilkinson invented the telephone conversation. Sergeant Foster, I'm sure, will be glad of the opportunity to answer this fresh allegation.
I agree. I will hear the evidence and rebuttal at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
I could strangle Wilkinson. If he hadn't kept that phone call to himself, Tiger would be home and dry by now.
Don't look good for Tiger, does it?
Yeah, but Wilkinson needn't have lied, the little runt. He could have told the truth, if it was the truth. If it wasn't, well, what the hell?
Still, at least it didn't shock me, old man.
Yeah, well, that's in Wilkinson's favour. We'll only break one of his arms, eh, Charlie?
Foster?
Christ. They must have found out Tiger clobbered that copper.
Why?
What else would have brought the chief constable down here?
May I have a word with your sister?
Come in.
What do you want?
I just wonder if you realize the mischief you've done.
The mischief I've done?
The GMC have written to me. If I'm unable to satisfy them, there'll be an inquiry. My public and private life will be put under scrutiny, and an innocent party will suffer.
Have you forgotten? My grandmother died because of your negligence.
I left specific instructions for Dr. Phipps to look in on her.
Well, why didn't he?
He had 3 emergency calls that night.
All the more reason for you to be here.
Am I not entitled to time off?
Not if it endangers the lives of your patients.
You have 3 doctors you may call on.
2, because you're never here. You're always sneaking off to visit this other woman.
She's not another woman, Madge. She's the only woman.
At least you admit it.
And she's not the reason I spend 2 days a week in London. You see, I happen to be a member of a committee looking into certain aspects of penal reform. My work in London is devoted to that and to the aftercare treatment of prisoners. Furthermore, I have Dr. Phipps and Dr. Fenton's wholehearted support in both these activities.
Are you trying to pretend you never see her?
1 night a week.
You were away 2 nights.
Because somebody needed my help.
So did my grandmother, and if you'd been here, she'd still be alive.
Not according to the autopsy.
Well, of course not. That was done by one of your doctor friends, wasn't it?
Your grandmother was 87. She died of old age, and you know it.
We had an understanding, Ian. Don't I even get an apology?
Why should I apologize for your fantasies? But then that's why you wrote the letter, isn't it? You weren't sorry for your grandmother. You were sorry for yourself.
You shouldn't have written to the GMC.
I still say it was negligence.
It won't bring her back.
No. Thank God.
You wanted to see me?
Do you think Lawson's guilty?
Yes.
When did you come to that conclusion?
I heard it was Sergeant Foster's brother-in-law who'd been injured. Knowing the circumstances and what the defense would make of them, I felt Foster had to be telling the truth. Unless he was a fool. And he didn't strike me as being a fool.
He lied, Miss Peterson.
Lied?
Yes.
Has he admitted it?
Yes.
How did you find out?
We had a firearms amnesty. It ended a week before Lawson was arrested. A woman brought in a .38 caliber revolver. No questions were asked. Yesterday, her husband, an army officer, turned up and asked for it back. Apparently he'd been abroad. There was no record of the revolver having been handed in. The woman then described the police officer who accepted the revolver.
Foster?
Further inquiries revealed that a picklock and a crowjack were missing from Poole Road Station.
Foster just took them, Miss Peterson. He made no attempt to cover his tracks.
I must be honest with you, Miss Peterson. I have nothing but sympathy for Sergeant Foster.
He obviously did it under stress.
Point is, what do we do now?
Lawson would most certainly have attacked Wilkinson.
But he didn't, did he?
Lawson caused grievous bodily harm to one of my officers. You should see that man. He's become a child again, a 2-year-old child. Everything has to be done for him. He doesn't even recognize his own sister.
Legally, you can't hold Lawson.
And morally?
Legally, Lawson is innocent.
You're right, of course. See that Miss Peterson gets Foster's statement.
It was the chief constable who found the implements were missing. There'll be quite a few resignations on his desk by the end of the week.
I should like copies of Foster's statement.
Yes, of course.
He went to Wilkinson's flat and found him gone. He returned to the police station, took the revolver from his locker, took the housebreaking implements, went back and waited for Lawson.
So in this one instance, Wilkinson was speaking the truth.
I can't help feeling sorry for Wilkinson. He was on a hiding to nothing.
No doubt he always has been and always will be. I shall bring the wrath of God down upon him and then let him go. I quite liked Foster. Such a terrible waste.
You know, I was quite looking forward to my closing speech.
Don't worry, Hickson. You'll still have your little moment of glory.
Oh, hardly glory, Judge. Lawson's obviously a villain.
If only Wilkinson had stayed in his flat.
If. Always the excuse of the second rate, Miss Peterson.
Yes, Judge.
Well, come on. Let's get the circus over with.
And on behalf of the Crown, I ask you to direct the jury to acquit in the light of that which has been disclosed. Sergeant Foster has made a statement admitting he committed perjury.
Do you wish to say anything, Mr. Hickson?
No, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, the prisoner is in your charge and cannot therefore be discharged from custody until you have found him not guilty. Now, at the beginning of the case, counsel for the prosecution told you that you must not convict the prisoner unless you were certain of his guilt. She has now informed me that she is certain that he is not guilty. Now, what counsel says is not evidence in the case, and you are bound to try the case upon the evidence. However, Miss Peterson has just handed to me a statement signed by Foster, in which he has admitted that he told lies on oath, lies which may have very unpleasant consequences for him. But you are concerned not with that, but with the guilt of the prisoner. Now, Miss Peterson, acting in the best traditions of the bar, says that in the circumstances she must ask me to direct you to acquit the accused. I agree. And I now propose to ask the gentleman, sitting at the end of the front row, nearest to me, to act as foreman. I ask him to stand and to return a formal verdict of not guilty.
By His Honour's direction, do you find the accused not guilty on all counts of this indictment?
Yes.
Lawson, you are discharged. Do you three want to go to prison?
See you outside, Tiger.
I direct that the papers in the case and the statement are before me be sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions.
I'm going to sue the bloody fuss for wrongful arrest.
I'll discuss that with your counsel. Now, let Wilkinson be brought into the well of the court.
You're not eating.
I'm not hungry.
Oh, please, you must eat, Harriet. Or my housekeeper will serve it up tomorrow as shepherd's pie. You took the only course open, you.
There were extenuating circumstances.
Different trial, different counsel. All you can do now is pray that he finds himself a good psychiatrist. Or that the judge deliberately goes berserk so that the appeal court can free Foster on a technicality.
This poor wife, what must she be feeling? First her brother, now her husband.
You ought to be delighted. You've always believed that justice must not only be done, but be seen to be done. Now you've seen it.
Have I?
Frankly, I don't understand your despondency. Remember that schoolboy philosophical marathon Moody inflicted on us? You agreed with him when he said Lawson was entitled to justice. No thought then of Foster's wife.
You disagreed with us.
I know.
Why have you changed your mind?
Well, like the mob, I believe in rough justice, provided no questions are asked. Once questions begin to be asked, then I quickly become a model of respectability, like the mob.
You realize Ian was right.
He's always right. No wonder I dislike him so much. If only he'd just enter the marketplace occasionally.
As a matter of fact, one of his women patients has written to the GMC accusing him of negligence.
Really? Do you know regret?
Why?
I must send a gorgeous creature a bouquet of orchids. She manages to get him struck off. Why? I'll marry her.
Good idea, John. With your body and her brains.
Find a best bidder and 2 glasses of red wine.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, learned friend, but there isn't going to be an inquiry. They accepted my version.
I'm glad, darling. This is where the underworld lets its hair down.
It's one of their haunts, yes.
They look different from this angle.
They're free, that's why. So don't be patronizing.
I wasn't being patronizing.
Yes,
Here
you
we
are.
are. 2
Thank
glasses
you.
of plonk. Bet you find it's red ink. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, come on then, tell her what you told me.
Well, you see, I'd been offered a job, and not from the Labour Exchange, if you get my meaning. And I was starting to waver. Well, I mean, it's 500 quid in it. And then I heard that Tiger Lawson had been freed. And I thought, well, perhaps you'll not answer back. So I didn't do it.
You saved him, Harriet.
Saved him from himself, you mean?
No, from being caught. The ones that pulled the job are in the nick now, and me, I'm on the outside laughing.
And he means to go on laughing.
Ah, found myself a bird, didn't I? And I'm not leaving her alone. Literally.
We've also proved that not all coppers are bent.
No, but those that aren't must be round the twist.
Lawson was released because of the integrity of the police.
But they've turned him into a hero. I mean, anyone who can put 2 coppers out of action and get away with it must be something special.
If you feel that, why bother to go straight?
Partly because of you and the judge, but mainly because of him. It's the first preacher I've met who doesn't preach. He's never given me the sob stuff, never looked down on me from a great height. In fact, he makes me feel I'm superior to him. I like the feeling.
Do you think I should send a copy of that speech to Gallagher?
Don't look now, but your halo's showing.
You should see some of the early Joes. No offence, Ian. They natter on about down there and up.
What are you doing here?
She's a friend of mine, Tiger.
Why did I get off?
You were at the trial?
Not the real reason.
If you hadn't, it would have been a miscarriage of justice.
You're a clever puss, aren't you? How much did you collect?
Collect?
How much were you paid?
Take me home, Ian.
And you can keep a secret, too. You know, you're gonna make a bomb, darling! Now the drinks are on me!
He wondered if you'd have dinner with him this evening.
I don't know anyone of that name.
Oh, don't worry. I told him you don't like the smell of skunk.
Why? Who is he? What does he do?
Oh, a professional fixer. Looks after the welfare of the bigger villains.
Did I hear you mention the unmentionable, Bill?
I doubt if you'll be bothering us again, Sir John.
I sincerely hope not.
That's the third kinky invitation I've had today. They're suddenly very interested in me.
They must think you can be bribed.
It's all Ian's fault for taking me to that dreadful pub of his. I knew I shouldn't have gone.
Were you bribed?
Of course. 5,000, all in used notes.
Excellent. I accept your invitation to dinner.
Why, is it shepherd's pie tonight?
The chief constable sends his regards. The poor chap must be feeling the strain of office. He'd nothing but praise for your conduct. He thinks you'll be a judge one day.
He's right.
Let's make quite certain we can walk first, eh?
John, any news about Sergeant Foster?
You're not still concerned about him, are you?
Well, of course I'm concerned.
And you shouldn't be. I'm not. He's history now, ancient history. Now, you're not his granny, Harriet. You must put him out of your mind. Unless, of course, you intend to lose all your cases from now on. Perhaps you do. You've certainly made a good start.
Dear John, always so encouraging.
Don't forget you're due in conference in 20 minutes, Miss Peterson.
Bill, do me a favour, will you find out if anyone's appearing for Sergeant Foster?
But Sir John is. He got him to change his plea.
He'll still go to prison.
Not concerned. You're the biggest granny of us all. Oh, that was a compliment.
I took it as such.
Naturally.